although not all solutions will meet strategic objective and goals of an organization anyways, but whatever solutions I'm trying to prefer, I try to ensure that I'm tailoring it to the overarching, enterprise objective and goals, or if they have some form of digital strategy, for example, I'm trying to ensure that my solution is actually aligning with that, so that, because we know that an enterprise comprises of people, processes, and systems. We don't have to come to a point whereby you churn out a solution and then it leads to another problem. Although, just on a side note, that's what most of us BA do. We provide a solution. We know that solution will cause more problems so that we can get more jobs. So yeah, but that's just on a lighter note. But yet, understanding enterprise problems and goals, will really help. Is very fundamental in your work as a BA. Again, analyzing needs and solutions. Spoken about that. Devising strategies to be able to meet those needs and to be able to address key pain points and issues. And then we're looking at driving change. This is a big factor because, again, as a business analyst, we're meant to be champions of change. We're meant to be enablers of change. And again, we have to be at the forefront of driving that change. And that change must be able to, drive value to the organization. And then lastly, you need to facilitate with stakeholders, which is very important. Not just facilitating, but you need to collaborate with stakeholders. You need to foster stakeholder collaboration. You need to foster stakeholder consensus, and get it. This plays a very pivotal part in ensuring that you get stakeholder buy-in, probably in terms of trying to get funding, or you get some form of consensus regarding requirements and objectives of what your project or the solution you're trying to work on. Right. So let's look at business analysis as a role. The world of business analysis is constantly changing, as we all know. New technologies and methodologies are creating exciting opportunities for BAs for us to expand our skills and contribute to diverse initiatives. So I have a few examples of how BAs can make those kind of differences. As you know, the BA role, like I said, is changing, and it is very key that we are at the forefront of these emerging new technologies and changes. So we have BA as a role is, like I said, BA is quite multifaceted, but the way I try to structure my thinking around it is there are key aspects. With the way the industry is right now, there are key aspects where the BA can really play a very vital role. One of them has to do with the age of data. As we all know, today right now, the world is being driven by data. And when we talk data, we're talking about big data. And data is very, very, very crucial. We need data to be able to bridge the gap between business needs and data analysis. In fact, most organizations now are part of their transformational work has to do with data strategy, data architecture and data strategy. So you have organizations having digital strategy, and they have change proposal and implementation strategy, and then they have the data aspect, because data from historical information, we can see that data plays a very pivotal role in ensuring that first, you are drilling down to the right set of requirements to meet the solution. In the past, data wasn't really something to really worry about, but now by harnessing data, we could be able to tell a lot. We can gain a lot of inference. We can be able to understand trends. In fact, data is very crucial to help you with your root cause analysis. So again, this data will help us to kind of like identify and collect the right business problems, translate these business questions into clear queries, and then help us to ensure that the data insights are presented in a way that informs decision making, because that is the whole essence of data anyways. We're trying to we need data to be able to help CEO, senior management to be able to come to a logical conclusion and derive logical conclusion, but yet again you're able to help support them to be able to make the right decisions. you don't suggest the solution. You don't suggest the decisions to them or the solutions. You give them options. But with being armed with the right amount of data, they're able to see this trend and they're able to make logical conclusions with it. Again, another aspect has to do with data analytics. So like it says, BAs can partner with data analysts to identify key metrics. In as much as you need to have specific skills in data analysis, you need to be able to manipulate data and be able to visualize information from the data in a user-friendly manner. Again, you could partner with data analysts to be able to draw these key inferences and interpret these data insights and translate them into recommendations. Another aspect I was looking at again is business analysis and process automation. Basically, I'm looking at business process improvement. You look looking at different tasks. How are you able to help for example, how you're able to help an organization move from their current process to a to-be process. Now, in understanding what this current process is, you're able to itemize areas for improvement, and then in able to highlight those areas of improvement. You're trying to, again, what are we trying to do? We're looking for opportunities to either automate or to automate the process, or to kind of like reduce waiting times. If you go by lean principles, what we call waiting time. We're trying to reduce waiting time. So in most of the times when we look at business improvement initiative, it's more or less trying to either you are trying to automate something to improve efficiency, save time or save cost, or you're trying to reduce time in order to make the process more simpler and less complicated. So for me, robotic process automation, PAs help. We play a vital role in helping to identify repetitive tasks that we think that they are ripe for automation, and then we streamline these activities to produce a more robust process. And then another aspect I think BA plays a role is in agile environment. Like I said, agile methodologies are becoming increasingly popular. I'm sure most of us are quite familiar with agile methodologies. We have the Kanban and we have the Scrum. We have extreme programming. I'm sure the most popular one has to do with Scrum, and I'm sure most of us are quite familiar with that. So it's becoming very popular. So as BAs, we could excel in agile teams by acting as a bridge between stakeholders and development teams. We ensure that user stories are well written, they are clear, they have the right acceptance criteria. You also help in prioritizing those user stories and maintaining the backlog of requirements. And then you also try to because it's one thing to have these things, for example, user stories written somewhere, but again, looking at agile, we try to foster communication. So you harness your communication skills, which are essential, and ensure that there's collaboration within agile teams. Right. So moving on, again, I believe one of another key role I think BAs are very play an important part is digital transformation. Digital transformation is more or less has to do with operationalizing operationalizing organization basically. So for example, you're moving from a on-prem solution to something that has to do with cloud. But then again, digital transformation for me is more or less the most important thing is more or less about people. So how do you, because when you're trying to enact some form of transformation, the key element is how people are able to embrace it. So as BAs, we help in understanding the business needs first, and then we bring in our technology acumen, because all of these things come together for you to be able to administer, to be able to champion transformational initiative. So we go beyond the surface, and then we truly understand what is really behind these transformational efforts. Why are we undertaking this whole process? So we ensure that the new technologies addresses those specific business challenges and contribute to the overall business strategy. And then again, talking about technical acumen, as business analysts, we shouldn't be afraid, to get our hands dirty with technology. even if you're new to it, you shouldn't be scared of getting your hands dirty. We have to have a working knowledge of emerging new technologies. Right now we have AI. Initially we had cloud, Internet of Things came up. There was some form level, there was big data, and now there's the period of artificial intelligence. So all of this allows us to be able to bridge the gaps between business needs and technical feasibility. And then last of all, we have change management expertise. Again, this is most likely a very key element of digital transformation, because digital transformation is by enacting change and again operationalizing business areas and making sure they are more robust. So change initiatives or digital transformation initiative is having a change management process or a change management plan. So as with digital transformation, which is just having technology, it's more or less it's more or less about the people, and to be able to manage people's expectations, to be able to ensure that there's no receptiveness, people are able to accept and get that buy-in. It's important we take into account our change management process or expertise. So as BAs, we excel at change management, and we should excel at change management. We can communicate effectively with all levels of the organization, different levels of stakeholders, senior management, middle management, down to the level 0 management, down to the ground workers. We also help to manage, like I said earlier, we try to manage, resistance to change. And we ensure that there's a smooth transition of new digital processes. Yes. So, business analyst as a title. Like I earlier said, business analyst for me is a multifaceted role. So the BA role goes beyond being a simple job title. I see BAs as the glue that hold projects together. We try to understand business goals. We translate them into technical requirements or functional requirements. So you go from understanding the business goals, which form and the business needs, which forms your business requirement. Then you go into breaking it down into user requirements. So user requirement comes from when you interface with your stakeholders. Why do you need this? What do you need this? What do you need this thing to do? What should this thing do? And then you go to the solution requirement, which talks about the how, which is then broken down into your functional and non-functional requirements. At times, you could also get some system and technical requirements. I wouldn't want to really go into that. But yes, we ensure that everyone is on the same page through validation, consolidation, and then again revalidation and re-evaluation. And of course, we could wear many hats throughout the whole project lifecycle. We could go from gathering requirements to analyzing data to even developing solutions. Recently, I've been on a very interesting journey. I was with the implementation of the digital governance around Power Platform. So Power Platform is a service being provided by Microsoft, and it has to do with helping building low-code applications. So you don't really need to have prior knowledge about low-code development. You don't need to be a technical expert, but what Platform does is it's developed to enable people like us who aren't too technically inclined to be able to develop apps or flows or anything, to be able to boost our efficiencies, to be able to automate processes. And I was brought in to help with the implementation because we had why I brought out this example is because as business analysts we need to be very much aware, and so I went from just being a normal BA into more or less like a technical solution architect, helping to that data inflow. We need to consider data loss prevention policies. We needed to consider how we manage licensing. So we needed to, because licenses could be breached, we needed to understand, we needed to develop environment instances that could prevent people from sharing apps to, for example, we have two types of apps. We have premium apps and then we have just the normal standard apps. So we needed to prevent people from sharing premium connectors from a standard solution. We needed to prevent people from sharing apps they created for themselves with other organizations, with other people outside the organization. At times, also, we need to think about scenarios whereby, okay, for example, somebody created an app within the teams, it becomes more efficient, and again, the university sees that, okay, this could be used and be implemented organization wide. So how do we go about managing that? How does it impact licensing? Those are the kind of, those were the kind of things I was looking at. And again, that I needed to, I was brought in to now to be involved in more or less talking about developing the solutions rather than just looking at what initially I was brought in to do on the project. So as BAs, we translate business into action solutions. And again, we also take part in developing some of these solutions at times or when the need rises. So again, let's go. I came up with this concept. So this concept is not really sacrosanct in a way, but it tells you it's more or less like the majority of what is. The major industries where you find BA roles. For example, I work in higher education for now, but within higher education, I'm sitting within information technology. Again, others could work strictly in healthcare. I have colleagues who work in finance within higher education as well. That is, that was what prompted me in, structuring this. But again, this is not to say these are the industry-specific roles. These are just some of my highlights. These are some of the areas I think, going by what is happening and the trend, I think BAs are quite, you could have, BA titles. Again, also, there are other aspects that have to do with cybersecurity and the rest. But when you look at this healthcare, for example, a BA you would not necessarily see someone, you may not necessarily find the title business analyst. You might look at something that has to do with maybe clinical analyst, for example. A clinical analyst could be working on their EHR systems, trying to improve patient data and accessibility and, all those cool stuff. Then in finance as well, I'm sure many of you would have seen some job titles so that's financial analyst or finance analyst. Sometimes in the finance world, they don't really call business analyst finance analyst. And again, it is quite, one thing I want to point out is it's quite interesting because I see business analysis as a way of life rather than just being a role, a title, or a skill set. I see it more as a way of life because if you look at the overall business analysis life cycle, you could see that there's a logical thinking, there's a logical approach to solving problems. For example, you want to take your bath. Before you take your bath, you need to think, okay, what do I need to take my bath? I need soap, I need water, I need a sponge. What time do I need to take my bath? How many intervals do I need to take my bath? Those are the two. I feel like business analysis is a way of life. And so we take away all of our individual experiences and then bringing it all together and channeling it into a more structured and formal approach. Basically, I feel like maybe that's why they came up with the name business analysis. But then again, irrespective of the industry we find ourselves, business analysis is quite, I feel like it's quite subjective. For me, it's more beyond the title. It's more or less about the ways at which we approach or we do things, the logical reasoning behind how we go about carrying out our individual tasks. So back to my example, in retail, for example, you have business analysts being called retail analysts, where they focus on analyzing sales data and optimizing, inventory levels. We have so many examples. We also have cybersecurity analysts as well. They look after cybersecurity, trying to ensure that solutions and solutions developed in organizations are quite secured, prevent any form of hacking into their systems, into their databases, into their files stored in the cloud and the rest. So other hats I feel business analysts could put on. You could work. It depends on how you want to channel your career, but you could metamorphose. And again, depending on the organization of the project, you could sometimes double as a product manager. You could sometimes double as a project manager. I have many times in past, and even currently, doubled as a project manager. In some situations, I've doubled as a product owner. I've also doubled as a product tester as well. Not just writing those test scripts, but actually carrying out the test cases myself. For example, when you write, I'm sure most of us know this, but in everything, subconsciously, for those of us who are BAs, your acceptance criteria in a way are also test cases, because when a solution is being, churned out, you need to test it to ensure that it passes your acceptance criteria. I think that bit of information fits into what you call the definition of done. So if you look at it, most times, I'm sure most of us, even in our project as business analysts, we kind of like double as a project manager and even as a BA. We are trying to ensure that the business is going according to schedule and going according to time scales. We're looking at funding, and looking at resources, resource allocation and the rest. And then you still have to keep up with your own activities, gathering requirements, current, analyzing the current process, looking at what it will be will look like, improving it to be, looking at the transition requirements, coming up, all that stuff. So, business analysis as a title is quite subjective in my opinion, and again, business analysts could function in diverse domain levels or industries and could wear different hats at the same time, and probably may not be called business analyst as a title, but would be carrying out the day-to-day core business analysis task.
Right. Just to cut you there, Eri. So I can see that someone has a question. Angela, your hand is up. Solomon's hand is up. Do you guys want to go for it? Please ask your questions. You can unmute yourself and ask a question. Solomon, go for it, and Angela will go again. Yeah.
Okay. Hi. My name is Domo Solomon.
Hi.
Yeah. So, on this last part, that other hats that a business analyst can take in. For me, I have background in both business analyst and project management. Like I have experience in both ways. Mm-hmm. Like I've been combining the both roles. Let me put it that way, without even knowing before I even got into the whole tech stuff.
Yeah,
I'm kind of new. So I included that on my LinkedIn, and someone reached out to me that I cannot wear both hats. It's either I'm a business analyst or I'm a project manager. So I need to, that if I'm applying for jobs and maybe recruiters come to my profile and they see that I'm wearing both hats, they will not take me seriously. So I have to rearrange my own my LinkedIn and just focus on business analysts. So, but seeing this now, I don't know, what can you advise on it?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Thank you. So ideally, you have to be in a way, for example, you can't be a doctor and be a nurse at the same time. But there are some nurses that actually know the role of a doctor, but you have to stick to one. That's fine. But looking at this in a sense, I'm looking at it at the level at which when you are actually, delivering on your task. You can actually be a project manager and a business analyst, but you won't call yourself a project manager and a business analyst. Rather, you will call yourself a solutions consultant. Basically, you can call yourself a business consultant or a business analyst consultant, because when you're a consultant, that encompasses the whole project lifecycle. So you're coming in as not just as a business analyst, you're coming in as a project manager, because so when you work as a consultant, for example, you go into an organization and maybe they want you to come and look at how help them improve a certain area of their business. Maybe they're looking at their sales team, so they want you to come and help them implement an ERP system, and you're coming as a consultant. Trust me, most times will not have a project manager on that job, because they know they employ the consultant. They believe you have that wide breadth of experience. They know you are able to manage project and giving the funds and giving the timeline, and they know you are able to bring in your business analysis skills as well to be able to deliver on the key set of the key set of deliverables and be able to gather requirements. So in that case, rather than branding yourself as a project manager or a business analyst, I'd rather say you brand yourself as a solutions consultant or a business analyst consultant, or basically just call yourself a solutions consultant. That would be my advice.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen people actually do those two roles and they are basically consultants. But then again, I'll always advise. For me, like I said, I'm not too great at project management, but I know the core principles of project management. But then if I get an opportunity whereby I have to work as a project manager as well as a BA, I will take it. But I won't call myself a project manager. I'd rather stick to the domain I'm very good at. But I know that I have this skill, of project project management and the rest. So yeah, you may not really need to call yourself, have those two names in your LinkedIn profile. You could just call yourself, a solutions consultant.
Okay.
I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, you did. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Okay. Thank you for that, Henry. Angela.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah,
I can hear you. Go ahead.
All right. So I had a question on the slide where you're presenting business analysis as a role. So there was this point of devising strategy.
Okay, let's go back to that.
Yeah.
Okay. So what areas were you looking, do you have your questions on?
Yes, so is it this one? Oh, before this, where you had, is this the first slide?
Yeah, okay, the first slide. This is the first slide.
This one, yes.
Yep.
Who is a business analyst?
Yep.
This slide. So there's that point of devising strategies. I just wanted to understand what that is really.
Okay, sorry, if I get your question correctly, you want to understand the point of what? Are you talking about this key point I highlighted here? Okay,
yes.
All right, fine. So, yeah, business analysts, like I said, we are change enablers. I see us as the glue between business and the technical stakeholders. In fact, what I call business, for me, I just call business are people who listen and are able to think logically to help an organization achieve a more conclusive, happy outcome. I call that happy outcome. Sometimes it doesn't end happy anyways. So understanding enterprise problems and goals. What this means is before you go about carrying out your business analysis tasks or even suggesting any form of solution options or carrying out any options evaluation, you need to first of all understand what the problems are and what the goals are. This will help in scoping your approach and your business analysis plan, basically. Because when you come on a project and you're giving your project brief, you need to first of all understand the scope. What is in scope? What is out of scope? So that you can come up with a feasible plan that will be suited for that project. So that's what I meant by understanding enterprise problems and goals. Again, this is very key because when you're able to scope your approach, it means that your solutions, the options you'll be providing, or your solutions will actually fit into that problem or need you're trying to solve. And that's why it's very important to understand enterprise problems and goals. Another aspect has to do with analyzing needs and solutions. Yes, this is very key because sometimes stakeholders will tell you this is what they want, this is the problem they're having, or they can say this is the problem they're having, but they may not really understand clearly what those problems are. Your work as a BA is to be able to analyze those needs. And sometimes you could also come on a project whereby they already have a solution at hand. In fact, most times we BAs, we come in a project, most organizations will go ahead, get a solution, make a mess of it. Then when they now get to a point whereby they now realize, we've actually come to a complex situation, they get a BA. Now you as a BA, you're not backtracking. So you need to first of all analyze what solutions they've gotten and see if it actually fits into the problem they're actually trying to solve. And then you need to be able to analyze their needs properly and play it back to them and say, from our discussion, these are what are the things I was able to derive from from our discussion, and this was what your needs look like. Validate those needs properly, because those needs, when you properly understand stakeholders' needs and pain points, you are one step closer to understanding the root cause. What is really making you, what is the underlying cause of these needs? What is actually responsible for, these needs? What is actually responsible for this problem? Sorry. And can be quite subjective, or analyzing it can be quite subjective, but it's very important to understand needs because, like I said before, you're one step closer to understanding the root causes. which will help to point you in the direction of the right solutions. Again, the devising strategies. This goes back to my point in understanding problems and goals. Once you're able to do step 1 and step 2, it inevitably feeds into your BA approach, to solving the need, and then you're able to come up with logical strategies that will help you deliver the change. And again, the aspect of driving change and facilitating stakeholder collaboration is very key, because without getting your stakeholder blessings or buy-in, you can't actually achieve anything. And if you want to drive change, you need to get stakeholders buy-in, you need to get their collaboration, you need to get a consensus to be able to foster change and be able to manage change with the different stakeholders. I hope this kind of makes sense to you, and I didn't just blab.
Yeah, I've got another question from Boluaji, and he says, "Hi Henry, please, what can you say about being a business stroke data analyst? Is it advisable to put this on your CV, LinkedIn profile, or you should just stick to one?"
Yes. Thank you for that question. You can actually be a business and a data analyst. A business and a data analyst is actually called a BI analyst. They call them business intelligence analyst. I'm also currently looking at data myself at the moment. I'm trying to hone my skills in that aspect, because I said data is the real thing. But yes, you don't need to put business and data analysis in your LinkedIn profile. You could just call yourself a business intelligence analyst. And trust me, business intelligence analysts one of the hot cakes right now in the industry. So if you have a good solid background in data analysis, and you also know about the business side of things, you call yourself a business intelligence analyst. So you can see here, let me just share it quickly. Yeah, you see here, when I was talking about business analysts in the age of data, I said BAs play a key role in gathering requirements, translating them into data queries, and ensuring BI dashboard and meet business needs. If you see that is essentially what a data analyst would be doing on the project. But but you being a BI, a business intelligence analyst now, you're not just looking at data. What you're doing is first of all, you're understanding pain points, then you're looking at user requirements, and then you're not translating them into data queries. Again, at times, you could start from looking at data source, looking at data trends, understanding and drawing inference from those data, and then translating them into user requirements to be able to meet a particular need or a solution. So it is intertwined, it is vice versa. It could be a BI analyst, or anyone you choose, but I'll tell you, it's very rewarding being a business intelligence analyst rather than just sticking to just being a data analyst. But yes, you can combine those two roles, and a combination of those two roles will give you what you have as a business intelligence analyst.
Okay, I've got another question for you, but please kindly use the chat section so that he can finish up with his slide. I know there's a lot he wants to say, so you can just drop your question. I'm going to read through them, then he's going to answer them at the same time. All right? Henry, please go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. It means you guys are listening. I appreciate the questions. Right. So, where was I? Yep. So business analysis as a key skill set. For me, I just had to shrink them into two key or broad categories, looking at technical skills and looking at the soft skills. Well, it's quite broad. There are also other competencies. I wouldn't want to kind of because if I talk on that would take forever. But yeah, technical or soft skills. Those are the two key broad categories that that are essential in the skills arsenal of a BA. For example, communication. Communication is one of the cornerstone of for being a successful BA. You need to be able to communicate, be able to conceptualize complex processes and communicate them in the most simple ways possible that even a toddler can understand. And you also, when you're communicating, you need to take into consideration both the technical and the non-technical stakeholders. You need to understand your audience as a B, and that is also under what is called, what we have under soft skill. I'm just giving the examples. You also have to have this problem-solving, approach to things. You need to be able to critically think about the problem, look at logical options for solutions, and be able to, come up with more, let's say, a more robust solution approach. Again, I'll just go to the next slide. Well, for me, when I was thinking about the skill set, I also looked at I was thinking about the key competencies, or will I say the key attributes of what your skill set should encompass as a BA. First, we're talking about behaviors. So in terms of behaviors, I'm looking at your mindset, having that agile mindset, be able to adapt, to adapt to any given situations, to be able to adapt to the working style of an organization, be able to adapt to changes, because you could, again, how do you handle when stakeholders go around and come back and there's a change in requirement, they tell you, do away with what you were doing before, this is what we want to do. How do you go about adaptability? I'm not saying it's everything that stakeholders changes that but of course, when a stakeholder comes up with a change, you have to analyze it, understand the impact. Why is this change coming at this time, and see a way how this change can be incorporated. Not maybe it may not be at the present time, or maybe in the future. But then again, how do you adapt to these changes? And that aspect has to do with characteristics. Characteristics has to do with your approach, your technical competencies, looking at your problem solving skills, critical thinking, and the rest. And then your personal qualities. Your personal qualities has to do with your interpersonal qualities, your interaction skills, how you're able to interact with your colleagues, how you're able to interact with different levels of management, how you're able to also, your ethics, basically. These are then you have your knowledge. You also have to have, not just the knowledge of business analysis, but you also have to have the ability to have the knowledge within the domain you find yourself. So if, for example, myself, I started off in engineering, project management, scaled up, came into consulting, then went into IT. Each of those phases of my life, I had to ensure that I had the right amount of knowledge to be able to function within those industries. And how did I do that? Of course, when you get into a new industry, you don't expect to know it all, but you need to be able to, then again, you need to be able to apply your personal qualities. You need to be able to apply your characteristics as well, to be able to gather those knowledge, so that you need to be able to interact with your colleagues, to be able to draw and elicit, required or, relevant information. And again, your interaction with these people or with your colleagues and applying your personal qualities will be able to point you into documentations, that will be able to give you that knowledge you need to be able to succeed within those, within that industry. So again, characteristics, personal qualities feed into knowledge, which also impact your behavior and again your adaptability as a BA. So this for me are the four spectrum when I'm looking at skill set as a BA. Now other aspects, like looking at the technical skills and the soft skills. So when I'm looking at technical skills, what am I talking about here? I'm looking at, for example, SQL, Excel. I believe a BA should have. You may not believe, I'm not talking about being an expert, but you need to have like a good understanding. And again, it depends on whatever industry you find yourself. For example, if you're in consulting, I don't expect you to really care much about SQL. I don't really expect you to care more about Power BI. But in terms of your technical compatibility, I expect you to at least know how to use Excel, for example, at least to the bare minimum. You should be able to know how to use PowerPoint, for example. Then when it comes to the other core technical skills for BAs, we're looking at modeling techniques. So if we're looking at modeling techniques, we're talking about UML, we're talking about BPMN, we're talking about process flow diagrams. You need to be familiar. Unified modeling language was brought in to kind of like cater for when you're dealing with complex systems. But I know most times people really don't use UML. I think BPMN came in to kind of like help, because it's more easy to follow BPMN. Especially when you use BPMN to map, system processes, it's quite easier than using UML. But then you need to have good understanding of this. You need to have good understanding of softwares as well. You need to be familiar with all the agile softwares. For example, Jira, You need to be familiar with Trello. You need to be familiar with Confluence for documentation and collaboration. You need to be familiar with Microsoft Visio for process mapping and process flow diagrams, or any form of visualization at all. You have DFDs, you have ERPs, and then you have class diagrams. You need to know how to use this software to be able to visualize and help you develop diagrams of this such. Then your soft skills, like I mentioned earlier, you need to be able to communicate clearly and effectively using various techniques, be it verbal communication, be it written communication, and also visual communication. You need to be able to solve problems. You need to be able to identify and analyze problems and needs. And another thing, you need to know how to negotiate as a business analyst. So your negotiation has to do with, for example, like I said before, you're halfway into implementing a solution, and then the sponsor comes back and makes a whole U-turn on months of work. You need to be able to negotiate those changes. You need to be able to let when you first of all, when you analyze those changes and you are able to understand the impact, you need to be able to negotiate those changes with the sponsor. It's not in your, again, that can be queried anyway, but it is not in your place to actually make the final decision. But you need to let them know what the harm it could cause the project, for example, the impact that could have, and the risk they should be ready to bear. So those are where your negotiation skills come in. And again, also you could also apply this to project management. How you're able to manage your deliverables. I believe, like I always tell myself, project management is not just something that has to do with managing a project. It has to do with how you also manage your own tasks. So when you start with your BA approach and your BA plan, there's something we call the business analysis governance. So that business analysis governance will guide you. For example, this is how you go about gathering your requirements, validating and prioritizing your requirements. And this is the definition of when you say, I've done all the requirements lifecycle process, I can then move up towards sign off and implementation. So that in itself is something you need to take into account. So you need to be able to manage all those processes, and I call that, for me, that is my own personal project management. So it's not just managing the project itself, it's managing your own work as a business analyst to be able to ensure that you are meeting up with timelines and deliverables. Right. So okay.
These are my Henry, I'm not sure we can see your face again, or is this just me?
Can you see me?
Yes.
Your screen.
Yes, we can see you.
Okay, let me.
We can see your presentation, but we can't see your face.
Okay. Can you see me now?
Yes.
Okay, you can see me now, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'll share my screen again.
Okay.
Oh, that's weird.
Thank you.
That's weird. Okay, just give me a sec. Okay, just hang on a sec.
All right. So while it's trying to share its screen again, I've got some questions here, and this is from Tinola. Tinola says, "Henry, can you hear me?"
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Okay. All right. She says, so it's obvious that a BA should be able to identify a problem, provide various options that could be considered to solve the problem, recommend solutions, and then, once approved, develop solutions and then incorporate solutions into the organization system. I find myself more in the development of the solution and less in the other aspect.
Interesting.
Okay. How can I navigate more in the other aspect of a BA so as to be more complete?
Okay, so that question is quite tricky because you find yourself more in the development rather than at the earlier stages.
Yeah.
Right. And that means I would really like to understand your job title, because that will give me a context of how I can, explain
Okay, so Tinola, do you want to go for it while he shares the screen with us? Tinola, you can unmute your mic and speak. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. So, my job title was actually a BA, but I think I work with a company that help, just like a company that help people that has problems. They resolve like a digital solution, and they provide solutions to people. So they might have probably their business analyst might have just find the problem, identify the problem for them, and then they already find out the solution. So they bring it to my own company, and then I am not the business head for the company. Yeah.
Right. So in a way, you're more or less working like as a digital change analyst. So if I'm correct, just if I'm correct, you don't actually involve in any form of requirements gathering or revalidation. You have a set of list of requirements and you just look after the implementation. Is that right?
I gather the requirement from the stakeholder, that is the client, and then I pass information into the developer, the people that work on it. So
you're pretty much doing the work of a BA, basically. But the only difference is you're not probably identifying any problem. The thing is, what your company does is they work with companies that already know what their problem is, and then they have a preferred solution that they want to go. Because what I've seen these days is companies know what their problem is sometimes, and they have a preferred solution. They tell you this is what the solution is, so they kind of like constrain your requirements to fit into that solution, which is which can be quite daunting and tasking sometimes. But in your case, I think in your business analysis work, or even when you're gathering requirements, you could also come in contact with you could also look at issues and pinpoint areas where you could see their risk. There could be a problem. Don't you kind of like raise those with your client?
I think there's kind of restriction with that, because they are kind of, this is what they want and this is what they get. So
yeah, I'm saying, so just underscores what I said earlier. They have a solution. They constrain so they've constrained your BA work, and they've constrained your requirements to fit into what they want. This is really not within your hands. But I'll say, if you want to really be into that, go through that project life cycle and that whole BA life cycle, I think it just has to do with where you found yourself. Basically, some BAs will like what you're doing. They don't have to, because defining problems and actually scoping, the project itself and the goal of the project can be quite time consuming and tasking at times. So to answer your question, I'll say it's basically because of where you found yourself. You found yourself in a company that actually look at digital solutions, and most of the times you work on projects whereby you're constrained to actually fitting into the solution that they already have a chosen solution. So it's more or less probably when if you're tired of where you're working, but I would say maybe you look for another opportunity somewhere. But what you're doing typically is what every other BA would do, or you're just being constrained, I would say. Right, thank you. You're welcome. So I'll share my screen again. Sorry, I can't. I'm on my
Yes, I can see your screen.
And again, it falls under these two broad categories, which is your technical skills and then your soft skills. And then looking at the practical tips for aspiring business analysts. And for me, I still see myself as an aspiring business analyst, because learning, for me, I learn every day. I'm very big on continuous improvement. So the three key elements I always tell people is, one, continuous learning. We need to stay updated, because right now things are really moving at a very, very fast paced. Today you learn something, tomorrow it becomes obsolete. You need to stay ahead of the trend. And if you have this big mindset of continuous improvement and honing your skills as a BA, not just within the BA's side of things, but with other aspects as well. just recently I had a very good conversation with David. When we were talking about industry, what's going on in industry and skill set, and then he said something to me which normally I would do, but he said something to me that struck me. You need to constantly evaluate yourself. You look at what is going on in the market, what's going on in job roles, evaluate yourself. Can I actually meet up what is actually going on? If no, then you need to find a way to close the gap. So for me, continuous learning should be a deliberate effort. As a business analyst, you need to continuously try to keep improving yourself. Take courses on data analysis, take courses on Power BI, take courses on Agile. I think Agile is great. I think there's a new trend now going with cybersecurity. Take courses in cyber and artificial intelligence. You see, ChatGPT, very soon there's going to be a role that is called prompt engineering, whereby a company will just have somebody come into the organization and write useful prompts for each business areas of the organization that will help employees facilitate their efficiency and how they deliver on task. Prompt engineering. So prompt engineering in ChatGPT, how to prompt ChatGPT properly to be able to draw information. Right now, we're seeing it just as a hobby, but actually that could become a very significant role in the future with the way artificial intelligence is going. So you need to understand how that works so that you can become indispensable. Imagine you being a BA. You're not just a BA, in a proper BA, but you know how to prompt engineer, how to prompt engineer artificial intelligence to get the right amount of information and streamline this information so that it fits within your organization. That will be, that will make you very indispensable. Another thing, you need to network. I network a lot. I met David not quite long, about 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, but because I follow a particular business analyst that he had a discourse with. They had, I think, a YouTube discourse, and I was very amazed with how David talked about his experience. He really came off to me as somebody who really knew what he was doing, who was sound, and that was how I connected. And again, I on a daily basis I try to network, because as a business analyst you can't do this thing on your own. You might think, oh, you're expert in this, and then you meet somebody that boom, and they have more knowledge in some areas that you've never even heard before. And again, you need to, like I said, you need to continuously assess your skills. For me, I would advise that you could do this on a monthly basis, but for myself, I do this twice every month. I assess my skills all the time. So it might be that you might want to take certifications, do a certification exam. I want to point this out. Certifications is what you have, experience is what you know. Certifications are good because they validate your skills. So basically, for me, I think certifications are actually me assessing myself, doing my own personal evaluation to be able to have that confidence that yes, I can fit into the market, and I can get, I can be open to better opportunities. That is what IT certification has to see that. But that doesn't negate the fact that it also puts you, ahead of the curve. But certifications alone will not get you the job. Your experience, which is what you know, and how you've been able to handle, key situations, and how you're able to deliver on solutions, is what will actually get you the job. For example, when I got my job at my university, I got to find that most of the people that got me the job was my experience and what I knew, coupled with the little certifications which demonstrate my skills about how I go about my work. Like I said, carry out this skills assessment all the time, and I bet you always be ahead of the curve, and you to boost your confidence as a business analyst.
Any question? Okay, I feel people are still trying to digest everything you've said.
Fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough. So because that's a lot to take, yeah. So for me, I'm just gonna say, Henry, thank you for coming on DOBAC series. Thank you for teaching us. How do we? Okay, Chinoso, go for it before I have my own question.
Yeah, thank you so much. Wow. Like I said, wow, what a beautiful word. So thank you so much, Henry and David, for this opportunity. Yeah. So my question is this. So, Mr. Henry,
Yeah.
what do you advise a fresh business analyst who is building there and there, gathering the knowledge, the behavior, and the other two, on getting a first role? Like
Right.
what are the best tips on getting a first role as a business analyst who is building, who is getting into the public, making one or two contributions there and there? Yes. Yeah, that's the question. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. First of all, I want to correct the notion that you are not, don't ever see yourself as somebody getting into the role. You're actually a business analyst, but you just don't know it. That's the thing. The mistake I made, and I wouldn't want anybody to make the mistake. When I started out as a business analyst, I was gathering a lot of information. Like, I was, consuming a lot of stuff. And that thing can play with your mind because you will never get to a point where you feel confident. I would say, as you're building capacity, I would say get yourself into the market and never market yourself as somebody who is getting into the field. You are actually doing the work as a BA. Even in your job, you're actually doing the work, because when somebody comes to you and they make a complaint, you have to think logically about that complaint before you give them an answer. You also have to ask questions as to what led to this, why did this happen. That is generally the work of a business analyst. So I would say, keep building capacity, but I'll say put your feet into the water. Don't be scared. What you need to do is, go get your LinkedIn profile optimized. Go to people like David's profile. You could look at my profile. Look at industry leaders, how they package themselves. Package yourself the same way, and tell your experience as a story. In writing your CV, make sure it's concise, but let your CV tell a story. When you go for interviews, use the STAR approach. Tell the story about what you've done in the past, not necessarily what you've read. If what you've done in your personal life, you could use that as a story to tell. Always have a story to tell, and you keep pushing. You keep applying and you keep pushing, and definitely you get something. Don't be deterred. I'll always say that. Just know that if you didn't get the role at that time, just know that somebody came and had a better story than yourself. That's what I see. That's what I see it as. So next time you get a better story than the other person. But yeah, keep pushing.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No worries.
Thank you so much.
That's spot on for me. We all think is a new face, is a new role. Whereas if you look at it in depthly, you know that you've done something related to BA activities, right? And are you sharing your slide with us? I think I'm going to answer that. I will get the slide from him, and we'll push it to the community. And Henry mentioned something that is really cogent, and which we have earmarked for this series as well. We said that this series we have a lot of topics and a lot of speakers, so the next series is gonna talk on AI. We have a speaker coming up to speak on AI. However, the community itself, we run CV reviews, mock sessions, and I know that some of the community members on this call, they've been able to benefit from that. So we do CV revamp, we do mock sessions. We're going to we have a speaker that is coming to talk about career, the hurdles you cross, while you're sorting for a job. So that is part of the series for this month. I don't want to miss that, like Henry has mentioned. So we try to put everything together. It's like a jigsaw puzzle, right? You have different pieces, put them together to form a bigger picture. So that is what I would say. Okay, Henry, thank you so much for coming. I'm really grateful. So how do we connect with you?
Yeah, right. Best way to connect with me would be by LinkedIn. My name is Henry Ehebha. That's my name. On LinkedIn, connect. I'm happy to collaborate. If you have any nice, challenging project for me that pays good money, please